Kingscreek is a horror podcast, and thus the content in this episode may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
You are now entering Kingscreek. Episode 15, Little Monster.
So, a slight complication in the case, I guess. I'm officially not allowed back in the Misty Pond. The bartender says he doesn't want to see me in there for at least a couple of weeks, which, fine, whatever. The issue is just that I can't for the life of me seem to find any other good places to chat. I go to the local library, and people avoid my gaze. I go to the park, by the lake, and people pretend I'm not there. The only people I've ever found that actually talk to me are in the Misty Pond. So, I've got to get back in there. Somehow. Just say your name into the mic, please.
Are you wearing a fake beard?
Name into the mic.
Right. Bill Collins. I'm 36. Work as a software engineer in Seattle. I'm visiting family here in Kingscreek.
And how did you lose the thumb? It looks recent. Was it something medical?
Look, I said I'd get to it, okay?
And you said someone had a weird condition? Your little cousin or something? Could you talk about that?
It's my nephew, actually. Like I said, I live in Seattle. Specifically, I live by myself, but I've been very fortunate to have found a pretty decent job at a company based in Silicon Valley. And the pay has been great. So I've been able to afford a pretty spacious apartment at home in the old Emerald City. And my hours are pretty flexible, so I have a lot of freedom there too. All in all, it's a pretty good gig. Unfortunately, a side effect of having so much freedom is that people who don't have it tend to envy you. Every conversation with someone who is stuck at a regular 9-to-5 or customer service job is always laced with jealousy. Barbs about my income, about my hours. It was tiring. I worked hard to get where I am. It's not my fault they didn't do the same. Anyway, one of those jealous people is my sister, Cheryl, who I'm visiting here. We get along fine normally, but I can just tell she's envious of my lot in life, and it's driving her crazy. And ever since she became a mother, it's become even worse. Oh, that admittedly is understandable in retrospect. I didn't know what her son was like when she first had him, just a couple months old. She said the birth was weird, and that he's been a handful ever since. At the time, I thought she was just being dramatic, like most women. So when she asked me to watch him for a weekend, I thought, it'd be no big deal. Babies just lie around all day, right? I would just give him a bottle once in a while, change a diaper or two, and I'd be fine. I didn't know what I was signing up for. When she first showed up with the kid about a month ago, I felt like something was off. I had never met it before, but babies are always crying, right? Crying or sleeping, usually. This one was different. Cheryl looked bedraggled, her curly hair sticking out in every direction and deep bags under her eyes. But the baby was perfectly well rested. And when the door opened, his eyes were already trained on me, like he'd been watching me through the wall. And when my eyes met his, I could swear that he smiled. The conscious, knowing smile. I mean, I shook it off. He was just a dumb baby after all. This'll be a breeze, I thought to myself. Cheryl gave me a big old lecture about when to give him his bottle, when to let him have some free roam time, etc., etc. Almost immediately, though, problems started to pop up. It was like the second Cheryl closed the door to leave, the baby just burst into tears. It was annoying, sure, but I wasn't too worried. I had read somewhere that most baby cries are actually cries for attention rather than for food or anything, so figured the best way to win: ignore it till the baby tired out. So I picked up the carrier with the still bawling kid, took it to the guest room, locked the door. Then I made some stir fry, ate in the front room, all while the wails went on and on in the background. I got tired of hearing that, so I got out some noise-canceling headphones. It's actually these premium ones too, not cheap ones like you get from Radio Shack. I connected them to an old mixtape of mine, drowned out the attention-seeking cries from the other room. All in all, a pretty good night out. The thing was still crying almost 3 hours later though, so figured I should let it eat something at least. That was easier than changing a diaper, which I was not ready at all after such a delicious meal. My stir fry is practically world famous. You should try it sometime. I have a natural talent. Of course, I got so much better once I started using my new kitchen knives. Stainless steel, sharp as anything. They cut through an onion, makes it very easy to measure out exact quantities of the vegetable. I mean, not that... the baby wouldn't appreciate any of that. All I had to eat was room temperature milk, which... ugh. Apparently the baby agreed with me, because when I tried to give it its bottle, it made a face and turned its nose up. Well then, I said, I guess you're not getting fed today. I turned to leave once again, but when I went to close the door, I caught sight of the kid. Like before, it was staring directly at me. This time the expression seemed... hateful? There was a fire burning behind this 3-month-old eyes, unlike anything I'd ever seen in an adult's face. And I've met some hateful souls in my time. Still though, wasn't a huge problem. I knew that even if hypothetically it wanted to do anything to me, it's not like it had any means to. It was like 15 pounds, I can't even walk without help. It depended on me, needed me to survive, so I had that power over it at least. Well, that's what I kept repeating to myself as I turned away from that burning stare and closed the door. As soon as it shut, the crying started up again. I didn't sleep great that night. First of all, I could still hear the cries through the walls, and for some reason my noise-canceling headphones weren't working. I had them on, cranked up to full power, but the cries were just as loud as when I had them off. They were useless now. As the night dragged on, it felt like the crying just got louder and louder. By around 2 a.m., I was groggily wondering how the baby had the energy to keep this up. Finally, the noise stopped, and I felt myself starting to drift off. There's a loud crash from the front room. I snapped straight back up in my bed, my heart racing. My immediate thought was burglar, so I ran to my office to make sure my work computer and my other valuables were safe. Then I turned slowly towards the sound. It had come from out front in the kitchen, and as I inched forward, I could hear something rustling. Maybe it wasn't a burglar in the traditional sense, I thought. Maybe it could be a raccoon or a rat or something. I picked up an old vintage golf club from its place hanging on the wall, steeled myself for combat. I made it to the kitchen. Moonlight shone through the window, lightly illuminating the scene in front of me, but not enough for me to make out any details. I could see some sort of mess on the floor, something large and rectangular, and a small moving shape. I readied my golf club, took a deep breath, switched on the light. A few things immediately stuck out to me when the light came on. The first was that the large, rectangular shape was my refrigerator. It was on its side, the doors thrown open, the contents strewn about the floor. The light bulb on the inside had shattered, leaving shards of glass and filaments scattered around the place as well. The other, more pressing thing I noticed, however, was that the small, moving shape I couldn't make out in the dark was none other than the baby. It was sitting in the middle of the floor, the mess of food and jars and condiments all spiraling out and around it, like a swirling vortex painted on the tiles. Its face, the front of its onesie, were smeared with ketchup, jam, mashed potatoes, what looked like bits and pieces of chicken. I know that the thought was the least of my issues, but I couldn't help wondering in the moment if it could even eat solid food yet. The kitchen was dead silent. The second I had turned on the light, the baby had stopped rifling around the food and had started staring at me. I met its stare, and once again I felt that prickle of unease at what I saw behind those eyes. This time, it wasn't hate, but something somehow even more unnerving. Mischief. Not a friendly, childish mischief, but the malicious, cruel mischief I'd only seen in the eyes of teenage bullies or my old boss. This baby knew what it was doing, and as it sat in the middle of this mess, it felt like it wanted me to know too. My mind was racing, and without giving myself too much time to think about it, I picked up the baby, took it back to the spare room and the baby carrier. Just to put my mind at ease, this time I buckled it in. I don't know if the baby knocked over the fridge. I don't know if it's even possible for it to have done so. It's 15 pounds, can barely move. But I know that if it did, it could definitely do something to me. And all I did at that point was look for food, so I guess I'd make sure it was fed, just to be safe. It'd be wrong to say I woke up the next morning, because that would imply I got any actual rest. But when the sun rose and light streamed in through my window, I figured there was no use in pretending to sleep anymore. I went to the kitchen, found the mess from the night before still there, flies buzzing around now hours old, room temperature food. I didn't have much else better to do, so I spent the early hours cleaning up the explosion in my kitchen. I wasn't able to get the fridge back right side up, so it lay in the middle of my kitchen floor while I swept, scrubbed, and mopped around it. I just tied up the last trash bag full of smashed tomatoes and broken jars when I heard the crying start back up again. I thought about ignoring it, but one look at the banged up fridge on my floor was enough for me to think I should at least hear it out. Hear it out? What was I saying? It's a baby, there's nothing to hear out, but that didn't stop my heart from pounding in my chest as I trudged my way to the spare room, the cries echoing down the hall. The first thing that hit me when I opened the door was the smell. It rushed out in a wave, slapping me in the face so hard that I almost vomited right there on the spot. It was a horrible, almost sickly sweet smell, but not like that of excrement. This is more of rot, horrible and pungent, like a piece of meat left out in the sun and rain for days, if not weeks. It took a moment for me to properly get my bearings in the middle of the smell, but once I did, I saw the little monster sitting in its carrier, that same look of smug satisfaction in its eyes. The smell was so strong I could almost taste it, feel it coating inside of my mouth. I closed my eyes, wrinkled my nose, took a deep breath, which I immediately regretted as more of the smell entered my sinuses. I started coughing violently, falling to my knees as I felt like I was going to hack out a lung. And as I choked on the air, I could hear something cutting through my gasps and coughs. A cruel, high-pitched giggle. The thing was laughing at me, my suffering. I raised my head to glare at it, but my will crumbled when I met the baby's eyes. They were almost glowing with hatred. The light bulb overhead shattered. I felt my world around me go dark. The floor crumbled, and my surroundings were swallowed up by black and red, swirling around those eyes. And I fell deeper, deeper into them. I could almost hear a voice in my head. It was deep, each syllable vibrating the inside of my skull, but also cold and unnervingly calm. William Collins, you have made your choice of allegiance, and now you will suffer the consequences. I didn't understand what was happening, but something about those words struck a deep, primal terror into me. and I jumped to my feet and began running around, and my eyes were filled with visions of stars and fire, of galaxies colliding, and the darkness, the eternal darkness of space. Worlds were born and died all in front of me, and then I watched the light of the stars go out one by one until all I saw was the empty void before my eyes. And through it all, the smell was like this thick, weighted blanket overloading my senses. The red, hateful eyes burned through the imagery. It was all too much. It was all too much. I came to in a hospital bed. My hand bandaged, missing a thumb. The doctors explained to me that my neighbors had heard me screaming and the baby crying, so they called 911. The police kicked in my door to find me in my kitchen, raving and sawing off my own thumb with one of my stainless steel knives. They had to sedate me, they said, and I didn't wake up for almost a week. When I described my story, they smiled, told me that it was alright. I probably had just had some kind of psychiatric break, they said, likely brought on by stress at work and exacerbated by taking care of the baby. It sounded all reasonable when laid out like that, but I knew it was wrong, and it was confirmed when my sister visited me in the hospital. It was a week later, a day or two before I was discharged. My hand was healing up alright, despite not being able to save most of my thumb. And I was finally starting to come down and believe the doctor's explanation of events. When Cheryl opened the door, I was, for a second, happy to see her. And then I looked down at the carrier in her hands. The baby was looking at me. The expression wasn't as fiery, as hateful as it had been before. Instead, there was just a trace of that old mischief. Barely a twinkle in the corner of its eye. When our gaze met, it smiled, ever so slightly, and waved its stubby little hand at me. And somehow that was more chilling than anything else it could have done. That's it?
Oh, is it really? Great. Just what I wanted.
What's your deal, dude? I told you what I saw.
Oh, I'm sorry. The story about the demon baby that made you cut off your own thumb because of how stinky his diaper was? That one? Give me a break.
Hey, asshole, I poured my heart out to you just now and let you record it. If you don't want it, I can just take the recording back.
Hey, no, give that back.
Asshole.
You're the bigger asshole.
I break it up. You again. I told you not to come back.
Oh, shit. Great. I don't even know why I went there. I keep looking for more stuff about cribs and apothecaries, but instead people just want to talk about whatever slightly nasty anxiety they've had this week. Oh, I'm sorry that your baby bit you. I'm sorry that you hallucinated your dead sister in the lake, but that doesn't help me. I will say, though, for a guy without one of his thumbs, that dude had a really tight grip. I almost didn't get this recorder back. I'm walking back to my aunt's place right now. God, it's chilly. I just can't believe it's not even Halloween season yet, and I'm already freezing my ass off. Ugh. Just another neat little garnish of misery to this whole thing. At least I'm almost there. I can see the house now, all alone, just... Who is that? Hi, excuse me, hi. We don't want any solicitors, sorry.
Hello, sorry, yeah, I saw the sign. I'm not soliciting, I was just in town and I heard a friend was back, so I wanted to visit.
A friend?
Yeah, I used to live here in Kingscreek up until about I want to say 7 or 8 years ago. I came back last night and was hanging around some of my old haunts when I heard chatter of a Mr. Bachman badgering people in town, so I came to say hello.
Mr. I'm sorry, who are you?
Oh, excuse me. Where are my manners? Sarah Hickman. Pleasure to meet you. I'm a former associate of Mr. Mark Bachman. Is he home?
Get in the house.
I'm sorry?
Get in the house before someone sees you.
Ah, secrecy. Very intriguing. Especially since the closest building is half a mile down the road.
Whatever, just get inside.
You got it, Captain. Also, if you don't mind me asking, are you gonna keep that recorder on? I don't mind being on tape, as it were, but I just want to make sure you're not wasting storage space.
Oh, goddamn.
Today's episode of Kingscreek was written and performed by Thomas S. Dennis, with additional voices by Daniel Goldhorn and Dharma Torres-Aguilar. It was produced by James Makepeace, and the score was composed by Kai After Kai. Script supervision is provided by James Makepeace and Ryan Kennedy. Our cover art is by CyberGrapeUK, and our social media manager is Ryan Kennedy. All episodes are a production of Tracer Magnum Entertainment. If you'd like to support the show, rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, or whatever service you use to listen to our show. It helps tremendously and ensures we're seen by more and more of the unsuspecting public. If you'd like to get in touch with us or become involved with the community, join our Discord server, post on the r/Kingscreek subreddit, or follow us on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr, all under the handle @KingscreekOfficial. Share with your friends, family, or anyone else you want to ensnare in our web. And above all else, thank you for listening.